Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who kept us going for over 350 episodes.
Yeah, we have a year's worth of content. You want to listen to us every day? You want to go fucking nuts with it? You can. Every day you can listen to one episode, and there's plenty. If you're a patron, you got all sorts of side quests. I think we're on like 25 side quests now that you can listen to on the Patreon. But if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. New to the week is The Great Mad Scientist.
Thank you, Great Mad Scientist.
It's I don't know if we've ever gotten the Great Mad Scientist as a Dude of the Week before, but they've been with us for, I think, since the very beginning.
Oh, there you go. A founder.
Yeah, one of the first. So thank you so much. And of course, we have a sponsor to thank as well. We're talking about Manscaped. Now things are getting a little bit colder, and it's the time of year where you're thinking stocking stuffers.
That's right. And there's a big cold front barreling into America this Christmas. So it's going to get real chilly.
Yeah, and you might think that you don't want trimmed balls in that. You want a big old furry patch down there to keep you warm. But I guarantee you don't want those kind of tangles. You keep it trimmed.
That's right. You don't want any icicles growing off your holly berries.
But we're going to talk about stocking stuffers. We're going to stuff all of your stockings. And we're, of course, talking about our 3 favorite things to stuff down other people's stockings. The lawnmower 4.0, 2.0, 4.0. We're on 4.0.
4.0.
Yeah, thank you. The lawnmower 4.0, amazing. It's got a light, it's got a travel mode, and it's got guides to keep you from clipping your berries.
That's
and
right.
The guides work. I promise you they work. They work so well.
Because when you want to stuff your partner's stocking, you want it to be extra smooth. So Lawnmower 4.0 will get you there.
And of course, to contain them, we've got the Boxers 2.0.
This is
I'm
the
wearing
gift
a pair
wrapping.
right now. Yeah, these
way.
are great. They're super comfortable. They really let things breathe. I'm a big fan of them. I don't think
nice
I've ever
and
worn them
soft.
to exercise, but they're super cool. I really don't you don't get swamp ass in them, which is a big plus for me. I don't want any of that shit.
Again,
These are
like
the official
after
E3 underwear I will be wearing.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely going to wear that at E3. I mean, again, if you want to, once you've made the perfect package, you're going to want to gift wrap it pleasantly with the Boxers 2.0.
You're too proud of that. But then, of course, our absolute favorite thing, the thing that got us into Manscaped products entirely, we're talking about the ball deodorant, the crop preserver.
The sweet smelling ball deodorant.
Well, it doesn't smell sweet. It smells actually like a forest.
Yeah, it's got a fresh smell. I guess like outdoors fresh, but like in a good way.
So
I say eucalyptus-y.
If you could walk pantless in like Portland, there is a load of hippies who'd probably be like really into this shit.
I'm telling you, man, like it smells like you're walking through the freshest Australian rainforest.
I don't know if there is an Australian rainforest.
There are.
There is, really?
Yeah.
I believe it. I'm going with it. But
not a lot, because a lot of it's desert, but you know.
Yeah. If you're interested in checking out any of these products, please head over to manscaped.com. Use our code YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. That's YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. Your balls will thank you. So I think it's about time.
Yeah, it's that time. We finally come to the end of the year. Now there is obviously going to be another podcast before the year's like completely out. However, there's not really any more game releases. I held on. We were both kind of holding on to see if Callisto was going to be like a December surprise. Nope.
Well, I was hoping, and then we had hope that it would turn around, and like they did make some quality of life improvements, but just oofs.
Yeah, so there's oof.
Oofs.
And then I last week I bought Crisis Core Reunion. Yeah, Jesus Christ, what a mistake that was.
Oof.
Combat from one. Well, I didn't play the original, and everyone says how greatly improved the combat is. The combat's fine. I actually don't have a problem with combat in Reunion. I'm like, yeah, it's good. It's adequate. It works.
That's what everybody likes to hear. The term adequate.
Yeah, but the rest of that game, holy God. Oh man.
But this is a positive episode.
This is a positive episode. So
this is an
Crisis
episode
Core
to
Reunion
bring
will
the
not
light
be
of the
talked about
holidays.
henceforth. I'm going to talk about the actual, real, honest to God top 10 games of 2022 right here. Because
It's
the
not
thing
even
was,
really a top 10. You couldn't even narrow it down fully to 10.
I couldn't even narrow it down. I've got some honorable mentions,
That's a good year.
It was a great year for video games, honestly. This was a really, really good year. And I played a lot of great games. You played a lot of great games. You played some. There's a couple you played that I didn't.
I mean, I think the only one that I didn't, or that I played all the way through that you didn't finish is straight up Modern Warfare 2. I think everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I played the game, but not the campaign.
Yeah, you didn't get through the campaign. Yeah, I think honestly, I didn't play enough games this year. There was a lot of games that like I really wanted. I mean, the biggest one is like Triangle Strategy. I bought that. I own that on PS5. Never got to play it. I don't know if it's going to be like you know that like Steam syndrome when stuff is on sale on Steam, and so you grab it because you're like, I want to play this. You grab it and it sits in your library forever, and then you go back and play it. The reason I started streaming back when I started streaming, part of it anyway, was literally like I had a huge backlog of games that I had bought when they came out and then never touched. And I was like, well, I'm gonna fucking get through this. You know, now I feel like that's happening to me again. Triangle Strategy is a big one. I have like a little list here of games that I own and haven't played yet. Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. I liked the first Mario and Rabbids.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat on that one. I haven't bought it yet, but like I did buy and play the original, and I'm like, I do want to buy and play this one as well.
And
but I just didn't get to it.
Haven't heard it. And then Tunic. I haven't bought Tunic yet, but I keep seeing Tunic, and then I'm kind of
played it on Game Pass.
Didn't like it, liked it.
Just sort of underwhelmed.
Okay, well,
again, it's
not going to be
the art style looks like an OSHA training manual.
Yeah, I forgot that you said that.
So it's a little hard. It was a little hard to get into. So.
All right. Well, what's your honorable mentions, real quick?
Okay, so let's just talk about, I have the real top 10 list. Like,
yeah.
Fuck all the other gaming media outlets. Here's the real top 10, guys. Like, this is the real thing.
Wait, so you're not going to have Last of Us 1 again?
Yeah, fuck. It was funny because that didn't even really get much critical acclaim. It wasn't anywhere. It was in the Game Awards for accessibility, and that's it.
Really, I feel like I saw a lot of people talking about how it's like it's the greatest story in gaming. And they're so glad it got brought.
I mean, I love Craig Mazin and what he did on Chernobyl, but he clearly has like, I read that interview, like he clearly has not played very many video games. He's like, and I've been playing games since '77, and I'm like, I think that was also the last time you played a video game, bro.
In my opinion, in order to say something is the best story in,
he said it was without debate. There was no debate on it, and
right.
His reasoning was
he doesn't know gamers then.
Well, he was like, because it's so grounded. He kept saying how because it's so grounded. How these were not superheroes, these were not soldiers, these were just real people. I'm like, bro, this is not the fucking first game to have done this.
Well, I always come back to that in order to say it's the best story in gaming, it has to be a story that can only be told in the medium of gaming.
Yeah,
and I like Last of Us. I like Last of Us 2. Both of which would have been perfectly good as TV shows or movies. You didn't need gaming. You could argue that, yes, The Last of Us 2 forces you to do things that you don't want to do in order to, like playing the action, doing the violence on NPCs is part of the point. But like, you don't need that to tell the story effectively. Whereas you look at like Nier Automata,
yeah, and
you can't have that story. It doesn't work outside of gaming.
And that's why they're doing an anime, which I don't get, because everyone was like, "Oh, are you excited?" I'm like, "No." And then there was a great interview that came out where Taro was saying that the director of the anime was being driven nuts by him because he says he kept drastically changing the story. Because he's like, and apparently he's like, "Yeah, well, you're making a show. The story doesn't work." Apparently is like what he's told the anime crew, like the story does not work.
Yeah, that's kind of the point.
TV shows, so I'm going to drastically change the story for the adaptation. And then they were like, no, this is sacrilege. It's like, no, I'm the author.
No, I'm the author. Shut the fuck up.
But it's like, it was funny because I was super worried. I'm like, the story of Automata doesn't work in a linear TV or film narrative at all. And then they came out saying like they were being driven nuts because Taro kept making all these drastic changes, all these suggestions that were just huge deviations and changes. And Taro said, was like, well, yeah, because it's not going to work, as is. I'm like, yeah, fucking A.
Yeah, that's the fucking point. You know what I know is not on your list, and it's something that we didn't talk about, like surprise disappointments. I don't know if either of us ended up playing Ghostwire Tokyo.
Nope, I did not.
I was looking forward to it so bad, and then it just like gone.
It's going to show up on Game Pass probably next year sometime.
I'm sure, yeah. I'm going to play it then, but then it can't be a best game. Well, I guess it can be the best game of the year next year for us if we really love it.
I mean, we'll see, but like, yeah, like it has a deal with Sony. I think the deal runs out in March or something. So then it, just like Deathloop, it's going to show up on Game Pass, and I'll check it out. I never played Deathloop though.
Yeah.
Deathloop was kind of like marketed to death. It was kind of like this weird thing where it's like,
yeah.
I heard too much about it for too long that I like any even Game Pass interest. Even Game Pass interest is like gone for me. Like, no, don't care.
The first time I saw a trailer for Deathloop, I was really into it. I was like, oh hell yeah.
I'm like, hey, it looks cool.
The next 35 times I saw a trailer, and the next like 10 times beyond that I saw like exclusive gameplay, like I felt so worn out and so tired. Like just the Team Fortress 2 looking like I would just I was done. Yeah, I didn't even want it. It talked me out of getting it. Like, it felt so fucked up. But all right, give me your honorable mentions.
So let's talk honorable mentions. The first one we're going to talk about, and okay, so both of my honorable mentions are games I did not finish, did not complete. So that's kind of why they're honorable mentions. I don't know where they would
5%, more than 50%.
Yeah, I don't know where they would be put on the list of top 10 if I did complete them or close to completing them. But like one of my big honorable mentions is a game called Vampire Survivors. It's an indie game. It's on Game Pass. It's on Steam. It costs $5. It was on sale for like $2.50 or something for like the first week it was out.
That's how you get the goddamn Steam syndrome.
So what it is overhead style, but it is basically an overhead style knockoff graphically, tonally of Castlevania. This game, functionality wise, not hardware wise, but functionality wise, could work with an Atari controller, Atari 2600 controller, because you don't actually press any and when you're playing the game, you don't press any buttons. You only press buttons to start the game. You just move a character. That's all you do, and they auto attack, right?
Right.
And as you kill things automatically, like you're a Castlevania, one of the Castlevania knockoff characters. Whether it be a Simon or a Sypha or an Alucard or whatever, and then like zombies, ghouls, whatever, they come towards you, and you just move your character, and they auto attack, in a sequence. And as you kill them, they drop gems. You pick up the gems, and there's a little bar across the top. It fills up, and then you get up a level. When you gain a level, does this boom? Gives you 3 options. You get, and it's random. Is it a new weapon or a buff to a weapon you have, or a speed up boost, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you pick one of them, right? Yeah. And then every time you level up, you get that. And then sometimes you kill an enemy and then the chest will drop. You walk over the chest and you'll get like a free upgrade without having to level up, or you get 3 free upgrades, right? And the weapons stack. So like say you're the Simon guy, he auto attacks the whip, and then the upgrade is he'll whip back and forth. Right, so there's your upgrade, and then maybe you choose the axe. So he'll whip axe, like it just comes out at these intervals, right? And there's a bunch of different weapons, and it's just swarms of enemies constantly like coming in at you, and you basically you see how long you can survive on this overhead perspective,
like
just moving a character,
but with daggers and vampires.
It's like, do you remember Robotron, Geometry Wars?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But you don't actually aim. The game you just automatically auto attacks. You just got to move and not get like stuck.
Yeah, don't get boxed in. Okay.
And you have a life bar, and you can destroy, candles or whatever things in the scenery, and you find like a chicken and get life back. And you just see how long you can do on this, and you unlock other characters to start with. You can get permanent.
How do you beat a game? like
So
that?
it's a time-based thing where it's like, can you survive this X amount of time? It's like 10 minutes per map is like, because you want, I think, because again, I haven't beaten this game. I haven't actually gotten all the way through it, but it's like you have to be 10 or 20 minutes in an area. And then you can unlock in the next area. And there's a bunch of, there's a whole bestiary with all this lore written in it. And Steph Sterling, Steph Sterling wrote all the lore for all the monsters.
That's pretty fucking cool.
So that's kind of fun. Yeah. So, but like otherwise, like 2 people made it, like 2 or 3 counting Sterling. So, one of the designers was a guy who works in the casino industry.
So made it addictive?
Right, yeah. So that's what everyone's saying, because like basically like you find a chest and it does this thing where it's like boom, this little screen comes up and the chest bursts open and brrr, there's all this like flowing shit and you hear all this like as it's like counting up like the gems you're collecting from the chest. So you did all this casino dopamine shit, but there's no cash, there's no microtransactions in the game. Because again, the game's $5.
Yeah, well, that's great.
So the whole point of this game basically is just to survive and then try to beef up your character with as many weapons and as many weapon buffs and speed buffs as possible, just so to see how long you can survive. And the horde gets bigger and bigger, kind of like Nazi zombies, or zombie mode.
Yeah.
Just like it's constantly bigger, like, harder to kill enemies and more of them. So
in a way, it's a 2D horde shooter.
Yeah, and again, it's $5 on Steam, and it's on Game Pass as well. So
they need to figure out how to put that on mobile. They'd be billionaires.
Well, that's the thing I said. I was like, well, I want this on Switch. I want this on Switch immediately. And they're like, okay, we get it. It's like 8-bit 2D sprites, but we're putting like 1,000 of them on screen at once. Like people with high-end rigs even sometimes get choked on this game.
Wow.
When they get high enough, because there's just so many moving sprites at once. It's just like the whole screen
for the Switch.
So,
wow.
But I mean, again, it's like a couple people made it, so they're like, I think they're obviously going to look into it. So,
yeah, they should. I mean, and it's a cooler name than Candy Crush. Vampire Survivor. Hell yeah. What are you playing over there, honey? This is fucking Vampire Survivor.
And it's great too, because when you're just hearing them, you're hearing these fucking slot machine noises come out of it. Especially collecting gems and stuff, and it's just kind of like it's kind of what it does. It proves the dopamine effect of slot machines at casinos.
Anybody who is doubting that, I don't know.
Well, like, because it's like, oh well, people are there for the gambling. They're not there for what's on screen. I'm like, yeah, that has an effect, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Okay, that's a solid runner-up. What's your other runner-up?
My second runner-up, we played this on stream at Max's, and I think I played it either myself. I can't remember where I played it. You got to play this game. It's called Evil West. Evil West. It is a AA game that fell out of 2003. This is the game you and Phil would have fucking loved if you were back at whatever age you were in 2003 playing video games. So what it is you play as this rugged cowboy character who works for basically the BPRD of America, of the American government, who goes around killing vampires in the late 1800s.
I'm getting a theme here.
So you do get this big steampunk like gauntlet on your arm to punch and kill the shit out of them. And you get guns and weapons. You get very like elaborate steampunky versions of pistols, revolvers, shotguns. And it's like a little bit, you can say like, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, like a little bit of that, but it's kind of exactly the AA kind of experience that it just doesn't get made anymore, right? It looks way better than any indie game. It actually looks pretty decent graphically, but it's linear, it's level based. It plays it plays a lot like current day God of War.
You don't
but with
really
more juggles and shit.
You don't hear AA as a term very much anymore.
Yeah.
Like it seems like it's been years. Like in 2005, there were AA games all the fucking time.
Yes.
But I'm trying to think of what the last AA game. I mean, obviously,
Probably like
Evil.
Saints Row.
I guess Saints Row would be considered AA, huh?
Yeah.
Saints Row 4 wasn't AA though. That was AAA. Like there was work done on that.
It was work, but there was a lot of reused assets in it because the company was kind of going under at that point. But
yeah, that's fair.
But it's like, yeah, it's from that THQ era of just making silly fun idea. Like, and the thing is, like, it's not jokey, but it's also, it knows it's a fucking video game about cowboys killing vampires.
Right.
Plays it straight, but also a little tongue in cheek.
You know what other game I haven't played that is also probably pretty jokey and knows it's a video game is that High on Life game.
Yeah. Well, that's like meta.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, that is all one big joke. But at the same time, I didn't get to play that either this year, I realized.
And that's blowing up on Game Pass.
Yeah, people love it.
But that one's like, they literally make jokes about like the level design and like, we're going to get docked on Kotaku and Polygon for this. Like they'll say that, like, that's not Evil West. Evil West is not fourth wall breaking. It's just kind of like, bro, it's a game about cowboys and vampires. So like, it's not trying to be Last of Us, at all or anything. Like,
right.
Anyways, the game is
it's
actually
not trying
really
to be art.
Yeah, it's not trying to be art. The game is just really fun. It looks good. It plays very well, and I believe it may or may not have online co-op.
I'm always down with online co-op.
I can't remember. It's by Flying Hog Studios, who've done Shadow Warrior games on PC.
Oh, fuck yes.
So,
yeah, the Shadow Warrior games are great.
Yeah, so it's good. It's good quality stuff.
It is.
This is the kind of game I think you and your brother would personally get a fucking blast out of.
If it's anything like Shadow Warrior, absolutely. I fucking love those games.
Yeah, it's more melee focused, and it's third person, not first person. Third person.
Hell yeah.
But it's got like juggles, big uppercuts. It's got like you can like knock enemies into other enemies, stuff like that. Like there's just
again a solid runner up. Okay, if the two runners up were very solid, I'm sort of interested. Like, how did you put them in order, or you just have 10 games here? Like, these are the fucking best this year.
No, I put them in an order. But
did.
like those two games, I haven't beaten them. I hear Evil West continues to get good. So, and it's got a new game plus where you can replay the early levels again with all the unlocks from later in the game if you choose. So, yeah, I highly recommend Evil West and Vampire Survivors. Those are my runners-ups. But everything else I have played to absolute completion.
You came every time.
So, my number 10 is, again, this is 10th, is Valkyrie Elysium, which, let me just say that's later. Say straight up, Valkyrie Elysium is mid to bad in every single aspect except the combat, which is great.
It's good enough that it puts it at
pretty much. The combat is great.
Everything else is like dragging your nuts over glass, but the combat
not that bad. Not that bad. Like it's an ugly as fuck game. It looks like a bad PS3 game. It doesn't even
it's not even hot. It's not even a hot person that you drag your nuts over glass. The gameplay must be real good.
Gameplay is great. The combat in Valkyrie Elysium, fuck all y'all. It is better than God of War Ragnarok. But nothing else compares. The presentation is awful. Graphics are bad. The voice acting is bored. Like the music is ho-hum. The music is phoned in. Even though it is a long time.
Fucking John Lennon of video games right now. Is that what you're saying?
John
Lennon
just a
shit ass in every way except when he sings.
When he sings, when he writes a song, he writes a great song. But he's got a piece of shit human.
He starts singing, and I'm like, all right, chain me to that mattress, dude. Fucking.
Oh, like Yoko.
The most maligned, the most terribly maligned person ever. You can still use her name like a verb. Oh, you Yoko the team. No, he Lenin'd the team. Yoko was innocent.
Yeah, that's true. That's the thing a lot of like people don't realize. And I've recently had this conversation too, where with with Max's mom, because she loves the Beatles too, and she's like, yeah, like everyone blamed her. It's like I'm like, yeah, anyone who knows anything about them, they were gone long before she came around. Like that band was not
wildly
last.
abusive shit.
Yes, that too. I'm like, but she didn't break up the band at all. Like they were done.
What happened to him? Not defending that at all. Just saying, like, he was a piece of shit. By all accounts that I've ever heard. He was a bit of a piece of shit.
But yeah, so anyways, Valkyrie Elysium. Fantastic combat by Salil. They made the Samurai Jack game. They're all the ex Team Ninja people, from Ninja Gaiden, Xbox Ninja Gaidens.
So they got all the combat devs, but no one else.
There's hardly anyone else there to make the rest of the game, right? So.
God damn. The combat has to be so incredible to get it into the top 10 of the year.
It feels fucking great. It's
genuinely, I'm so
it's
impressed.
Responsive. There's like a good skill tree that's like, okay, there's things you unlock, but it's not like huge and it's not like confusing. It's just pretty straightforward. It feels fucking great to play.
Wow.
The only thing was it was kind of easy, like default, and then they added in, I think it was a free DLC for like an even harder mode, because people were just like, I want to be like challenged even more.
Yeah, it's Team Ninja. Why would you make an easy mode at
all?
Like
if you got, I beat the last boss. Took me a couple tries, but like if you're just good at pairing and reading, you can. I was having an easy enough time beating the last boss and stuff. It has multiple endings, and it has one of my, not favorite, but like it has this beautiful fucking ending that is just a sort of fuck it ending. You don't see it in gaming anyway. So like you're a Valkyrie, duh, and the whole point of the game is you're basically trying to cause Ragnarok, or basically restart the world for Odin. Odin's gonna restart the world, right? So and then there's like you can go with the bad guys, the good guys, which are not really good. Odin's really not good. Surprise, surprise, whatever. But there's this ending where if you basically just go on the last mission, you deviate, you go over to this path, because there's this character you talk to who's like, he's basically traveling the world looking for his lost love, and then surprise, surprise, that you, the Valkyrie, are that lost love that died and became part of, right? So one of the endings is like you just go meet him back up at the field where you lived, and basically just say, let's run away together, and just say fuck it. Solid. And it ends, and you literally just leave, and like Odin's Raven is just like looking at you like, what the fuck? Like, you don't cause the ending of the world at all. Like you basically just say fuck it, I'm not going to be a pawn in anyone's game. So they have this, which I consider like the true ending. It's supposed to be like the weird alternate ending. I'm like, no, that's the true ending.
Yeah. Like given the choice between being warm and comf with the one you love, or going on a giant adventure that could possibly end in your death, I feel like most people are probably going to choose the warm comf option.
Yeah, because like in one of the endings is like you cause Ragnarok, or you restart the world with Odin, but only you and Odin are left. All of your companions get like wiped out, to get cleansed in the rebirth of the world. And I'm like, fuck this ending.
Fuck this ending.
So,
all right. Solid number 10.
Valkyrie Elysium, absolute surprise. Nothing like, you look at it and you're like, bro, look at that game. Like you look at it and it's just woof, man. But like,
it's rough.
It is an ugly ass game, but but like the Millennium Falcon, she got it where it counts, so.
In the ass.
Like honestly, most people, I can just imagine most people get to the game and they're just like Luke Skywalker, and they're like, "What a piece of junk!" And you're like, "Look, she may not look like much, but she got it where it counts." So the combat, phenomenal in Valkyrie Elysium. Yes, good enough to make it number 10.
All right. Are all of your picks surprising like that, or there's some like
no?
That's like everybody saw this coming.
No, everyone's gonna see everything else. Honestly.
Okay, well, what's number 9?
Number 9 is Horizon 2, Forbidden West.
Horizon 2 got beat out by Stray on your list?
Yeah, because the combat still kind of sucks in Horizon.
Get the fuck out of here. It's not that bad.
Yes, it is. Play Valkyrie Elysium.
No, Horizon's got good combat. You just
it doesn't. No, it fucking doesn't. There's so much... Like the part where you're running up to that center hill, I don't know if I have clips. It's probably not, but like there's a part where like you have to go and take the big mountain in the middle. Like it's like the midpoint of the game, right? And a bunch of big Utah-sized raptor dinos are kind of basically in your way as you're running up the hill with that whole tribe to take it. And I literally have parts where like I swing at a raptor and like you press the button to do the heavy swing and you see Aloy pivot like an animatronic to sort of try to get after the thing, and the raptor is jumping and goes like pivots 45 degrees in the air to hit me, and I'm like, this Eurojank combat. It's just is it an improvement on the first game? Absolutely, but the biggest greatest disappointment was that the combat wasn't improved enough.
I can't think of a single time where that happened to me, and now I just want to replay it just to see where that happens.
just watch how fucking wild some of the swings and more to the point the reaction timing. And then the last boss, the big wavy and floatable arm man, the last boss. All the skill trees, all the things you may have upgraded and spec'd into mean jack diddly shit. All you need is armor piercing rounds on the straight on a bow, hit him in the gut. That's all you do. That's all you do. He is completely immune to all tricks and traps and melee and everything. It is just hit the motherfucker in the chest with the arrow. So all your buildup leads to fucking squat diddly. So, but that being said, it is a beautiful game. I love the environment. I love the world building. I love the lore of the game. I love the acting of it. I love the mocap of it. I like, they generally try to make it more dynamic when characters are talking to each other. I fucking love flying. The fact that they added flying in, phenomenal. There's more variety. I mean, even though you start in Utah, you go to Nevada, you go to the Redwoods, you go to, San Francisco.
It feels much more expansive.
Feels even, yeah. So there's a lot about the game that I think is really good, but the combat still kind of sucks.
I honestly, I didn't have the same experience with the combat. I'm not really sure why.
Because you didn't play Valkyrie Elysium.
I don't have it.
Which I did rank lower because the thing is, it's like a reverse situation where I'm like, everything about Horizon 2 is actually pretty good, and the combat is just adequate.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I wouldn't rank the combat as okay. I'd rank it as good. I think honestly, the looks of the game, I really liked the story. I felt like this one, the characters had more depth than in the first one. Mm-hmm. Like they put more time into making each of the main characters, just more deep,
fleshed out.
More fleshed out.
Another big Sony game kind of did the same thing.
Yeah. They're all about characters this generation.
Well, it's kind of good to see that it's not becoming like this hyper main character focused event anymore. You know, like if you're gonna have a long game with a lot of cutscenes, you might as well, flesh everyone out.
Yeah, give everybody it's one of those things where it's like when you have a game where the only memorable character is the main character, in my opinion, that game's not going to have the same staying power. Mm-hmm. But when you have a game where the side characters are just as memorable, you don't necessarily want them to overshadow your main character, but they're just as memorable. Yeah, I like that. I would say one thing about Horizon Zero Dawn is that the villains tend to be sort of forgettable.
They are. You're basically fighting space Bezos.
Kind of. In the second one, like I keep forgetting that there's another level of villain. Like there's that other.
I will say I think the ending is a little bit less. I don't know what's the word. I want it's a little bit less good. Now it's
not
the
as
ending.
Satisfying as
the ending doesn't quite hit as hard as the first game.
Right.
They introduce a very obvious plot point setup for the next game, but they do it at not the 11th hour, but the 11th hour, 11:50.
Right.
So there's way more build up to like what's going on in Horizon 1, and there's way more of a natural discovery of the villain and what the villain's doing and all this and that and like what could possibly come next. This one is very much like they throw something at you at the very end. There is like a couple very, very tiny obscure logs you can find midway through the game that vaguely hint at what the end plot twist thing is. But like otherwise, it is pretty much just like, here's the bad guys, build up, you go fight them, and then, oh, by the way, there's this other thing for part 3.
Here's this massive, terrifying thing. We didn't have time to build up to it. Just wait. Next game. Yeah.
Next game.
Yeah, that is a pretty big drawback.
and I know people who like Horizon's one of their favorite games of all time, and even they agreed that they're like, yeah, that tease, that thing that leads into part 3, that's kind of thrown in very last minute.
Yeah, part of me thinks that they were trying to tie it off, and then Sony at the last second was like, nah. They were like, all right, let's duct tape this bitch on there. Now we got a bumper. Let's get into it.
Look, these games sell well. You're not ending here.
Yeah. All right, solid number 9. Or 10? 9. I'm now with your addendum, your additionals.
My 8
runners up.
8th place is Stray. I don't have a ton to say. I don't have a ton to say about this. It's just solid all the way through, start to finish.
I'd say I wish it was longer. I wish it was more meaty. It feels like a tech demo.
Yeah, I think maybe more meaty is the better way to explain it. Because like it's also cool that it doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it also does feel like it does. There are some things that I wish were expanded upon a little bit more, but not to the point where I'm like, oh, the game's missing too much shit. It's just like, I feel we could have done maybe a little bit more with this mechanic or not. But a solid game, beautiful game, beautifully realized world. It's really good. It is a bit of a walking sim. It's kind of like walking, light puzzles. You experience the story and the atmosphere, and then you're kind of done in 5 hours.
Right.
But, looking at it as a whole, where I'm like, well, there's really nothing I can say negatively about this game other than I wish some areas were a little bit more expanded upon. That's a good time.
I do. Games under 10 hours, especially. Games under 10 hours always feel a little bit tech demo-y to me. Mm-hmm. If you're under 5 hours, which it sits right at 5 hours, it feels like it's a game that was meant to be shipped with the PS5. Like, where it's just like, hey, here's the justification for the PS5. Look at how pretty this is.
Yeah, and it's on PS4. Granted, it doesn't run nearly as well. Isn't as high resolution.
Well, it's like PS2 had Onimusha, and Onimusha was fucking short as hell. I can't remember how long it was, but
it's pretty short.
It's like 6 hours or something like that, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot of people was like, yeah, it's just a tech demo for the PS2. And I was like, all right.
Yeah, Stray does have that tech demo feel to it. It really does. But
still good.
It's still good, but it's still, I mean, that's why it's number 8. But again, I don't have too much more to say about it other than like it's well, like its premise is well executed.
Right. Yeah. And no reason to try and go any balls deep on that.
Yeah. And if you can get it on a sale, great, do it.
All right, number 7.
Number 7, God of War Ragnarok.
You know what? Further down the list than I expected.
So did I. But then I was just kind of looking at it.
The parry is what did it for you? It knocked you down to 7?
It's more just that like it's not it's more God of War. In a sense where it's like, which is not a bad thing, but like some of the design philosophies are starting to wear a little thin where okay, so the game basically has 2 things you do. You fight, and then you do chess puzzles. And that's kind of fucking it. And then the chess puzzles are kind of to a point of like more annoying because they have basically 3 solutions to them, and so much of them just more or less rely on making the sigils connect, the explosion of the sigils connect, or freezing a thing to do another thing. Like, it's kind of weird that there's a couple like clever puzzles where you freeze, the aqueduct, or like, the water chutes to do some stuff. And that's used like 2-3 times in the game.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. And then kind of not again. And everything else is just like, pulling a chain, pulling a lever, freezing a thing, walking around. And like, if you go more than 15 seconds without, solving the puzzle, Atreus is going to tell you exactly how to solve it.
Right. I would say that the biggest downfall in a way to God of War 2022 or Ragnarok. I was doing the God of War 2018 thing. The biggest downfall to Ragnarok is probably that because it's long, and I actually liked that it was long.
Yeah.
But because it's long, all of those puzzles become annoying about 5 or 6 hours in. And they stay just annoying because they're not really hard enough to like that, and you don't get the last thing that lets you go everywhere until halfway through the fucking game. But like running into a thing where they're like, we can't do that yet. You're like, well, what the fuck? Fuck you. Like, we're 12 hours into the game. Why don't I have this thing yet?
Yeah, that happens a lot too. There's annoying things where it's like later on you get a thing that you can use to basically make platforms,
right?
But you have to line up yourself perfect
with it,
in front of it. Like, there's part of me that's also kind of like, I don't like the level. The environment art is phenomenal.
Yeah,
but the level design is getting a little grating, where it's like this puddle of water is what's stopping Kratos from stepping over it to easily open the chest, or to easily light, like there's a bramble, like these brambles in front of a lantern. You have to burn the brambles, but he can't step over this log. He can't step into this ankle high water. He has to go into this other weird angle to connect, the chains to light it up. Like stupid shit like that, where it's like, there's no puzzle if he's allowed to just walk over shit. And I'm like, that's where and honestly, that's where I think the level design is kind of gets a little tired, because it's like, if there was more to do than just fucking light torches to open chests or kill things, maybe it would have been maybe it would have been more here. But I think, and kind of like what you were saying, like the chest opening mechanics, because they don't change really hardly at all throughout the game, it gets tired about a quarter of the way through. So when you see a new chest, you have to open it because you really need that horn, or you need that apple. You really fucking need that thing that's in there. But it just becomes sort of like this. First, you play this tedious Where's Waldo game of the environment around you, and then you basically solve the puzzle in one of 3 variations every time for fucking 40 hours of this game.
I really liked the game, and so it's not a huge knock to it for me, but I would say that and the shit-ass mini-map, or like the shit-ass map, are the 2 biggest knocks really does that I have for it. Yeah, the map sucks. It's just really bad. It's basically fucking useless. But in the scheme of things, both very cool. Like,
other than that,
like, I realize I'm being nitpicky and pissy about it when I say those things. So I don't want, if for some reason you're out there listening and you're like, I haven't played that yet, I don't know if I want to get it. You should. It's wonderful. Could it have been 2 games? Probably. But I'm fine with them having done it all.
And again, if they're going to, since they are charging $70 for it, it's kind of like, you feel like you're getting a $70 experience.
Yeah.
Because you're getting like 2 games worth of content practically.
You're getting a lot for it. And especially if you do all the side quests and stuff like that. Like, I didn't even do all the side quests, and I put like 30 hours in.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's like, again, presentation is phenomenal. Plenty of things to do. Lots, good variety of locales this time. The story is good. Wraps itself up. Maybe doesn't hit quite as strong at the end as 1 did.
Well, 1 had a pretty solid reveal that, hard to beat that.
Like there's like 2 sets of credits, and the second set is really good. The first set is like okay, I feel. And then I'm trying not to be too spoiler here, but like so that's kind of it doesn't, I guess it just doesn't hit as hard in the ending or whatever, which is fine. It doesn't need to. I will say there are major plot points and characters that feel irrelevant.
Wow.
And I know we've kind of talked about it, where it's like, this felt like, there's this really important thing to set up, and then they end up being fucking useless in the final fight.
Yeah, and they just leave it alone. Yeah.
And they just kind of leave it alone. It doesn't really, it's like there's parts of the game where it's like they wanted to have so much of the Norse mythology present and accounted for and part of it, that They do. It does sort of like get to a point where it's like this wasn't even necessary.
Yeah, it's bursting at the seams. Really, it is.
Yeah.
But
But it's all
again,
good
great.
content, though. It's
Yeah.
all good. The combat is still good. I would say the combat is still pretty good in God of War. There's a couple of nitpicky things, but like
The thing I hate about top 10 lists is that like it's sometimes because it's number 7 on the list, people be like, "Oh, it's not that good."
no, it is that good.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
is.
really
It's really fucking good.
it's a really, really, really good
Yeah.
year for video games. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that like when I'm just sitting here thinking about like, okay, of the games on my list, you know, where does this land in particular? And I love God of War, but it is bursting at the seams, and it's bursting at the seams with basically, like I said, you basically do two things: you open chests, you beat shit up, you kill shit.
You are a force of nature.
The opening the chest parts aren't as there's not enough puzzle variety there to really you know make it all that enthralling. But still really good. Is it worth $70? Yeah.
All right, so I'm curious what beats it. What's the number 6 that beats it outright though? Because God of War Ragnarok is pretty fucking good. Oh, Elden Ring. Okay.
Can you even imagine it?
I am surprised that on your picks of top 10, like it would be higher. Like I'm sure there's a ton of Souls bros that are like, yeah, absolutely, it's the number 1 best game. Like, duh. But like,
you know, this is
better.
very personal, I feel, but
yeah.
and I've said it before. Elden Ring is number 6. It fixes my 2 biggest issues with Souls games, which is checkpointing and loading. Loading was always a technical issue. Now it's gone. PS5 and NVMe drives on PC. And the checkpointing is actually good this time. Because they have not only do they have the bonfires, they have the Stake of Marikas. And they fix checkpointing. They just fix it. And it was probably done because they knew, because it being an open world game, you had to start putting a different type of checkpoint in there just on purpose. Otherwise, people could possibly, you know, they'll respawn
miles away
and just be lost, not even know how they got to where they were. So good call on them. They whatever it was they needed to get over for the checkpoint, they got over it. I don't know if that's because of the open world or just because they just realized how it was in the past. Anyways, love the game. Beautiful game. Artistically gorgeous looking for the most part. And I love how you can have very different builds. You can approach the game in very different ways for whatever weapon or type of build you want to go with. I love all that. I love the fact that, and this is what really makes the open world work here, is that there's always something in some part of the world, not necessarily that's going to be beneficial to you, but it will be absolutely beneficial to some build type. So nothing's wasted. Like no treasure you fight and earn in the game is really wasted. It just may not be good for that particular build you're running, but it is good for something, some other build. So it doesn't.
That's cool as hell.
So it doesn't feel like the world is just kind of like there's all these things, but there's no real reason to go to them, which makes other parts. And again, you're not gonna, unless you're running with a guide, you're not gonna know what is good where. So you will inevitably travel in and go to a fortress and take it over, and you're going to get something, and it's not even going to be worth it for you. But maybe you keep it or hold on to it because maybe you'll spec into that build or change your build, or maybe you'll do a new game plus run, and then that'll be worth it for you. The only reason, so why is Elden Ring only 6? And that is because half of the map fucking sucks.
Okay, well, that's a bold statement.
So there's a good 30 to 35% of the map called Caelid, which just looks like Satan's rotten asshole. It's not well designed. It's not pretty to look at. It's red. It's just everything's red. The dirt's red. The sky's
so it's
red.
Red Mordor instead of brown Mordor.
Yeah, just red Mordor, but it's just full of like weird derpy looking Tyranno dogs. And just really, really fucking annoying enemies to fight.
And it's half the map.
It's about 35 to 40% of the map. A huge chunk of the map is taken up by this place called Caelid, and it's miserable. There's a good 10% of the map up in the top right corner that's all just snow and rocks and not much else. There's some pretty stuff with there, but it's snow and rocks. It's a real. I mean, yes, it's a contrast and it's variety, but holy God, does it look so boring compared to all the other areas that are not Caelid. And then there's a part in the top left. It's a very, very small area of the map. And it is Mordor. It's just Mordor. Jagged rocks, volcano, nothing else. And some real fucking annoying enemies. So that is my one real issue. But the thing is the other parts of the map are so good. And so interesting looking that it really kind of, really is fine. It overtakes, it makes up for the fact that, again, half the map is like, it just fucking sucks. There's the whole underworld area. That's really fucking cool to discover. Like there's a world beneath the world kind of thing. And it's dope looking.
Yeah,
and
cool. So
it's fun to discover all the different entrances into it and stuff. So wonderful. But again, I don't want to play on half of that fucking map, which just hurts for me. For me, this is a very personal thing. Hurts the replayability a little bit because I don't want to. Thing is, like, oh, you did New Game Plus. I'm like, I don't want to go back there and have to go into Ohio. I mean, Caelid, and play through that shit again. No,
I think that's an interesting part of this year's of any of the last years of gaming, but like, what is the most replayable game this year? Because I have only. List? Well, I mean, just like in general, because it doesn't feel like newer games are meant to be replayed a lot of time. Like replayability isn't high on the list.
Vampire Survivors is the most replayable.
Well, yeah, that's super replayable. But like Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon Forbidden West is not super replayable to my mind. Like I've replayed a little bit of it on a New Game Plus, but like
you're right. It's meant to be experienced. One big long initial experience, like God of War.
Yeah, Ragnarok doesn't feel like it has a lot of replayability to me.
And there is replayability in Elden Ring because, again, you can go try it doing a whole different build type.
A whole different build. It has replayability in mind.
Yeah, it does. It just
feels like that's becoming more rare.
It is, honestly, because everything's about having that first presentation. I get it, but again, Elden Ring for me is 6th on my list, my accurate list.
All right,
it's a great game, great world design, but like also like I don't want to fucking be there half of the places.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, well, number 5. What's
This is an indie darling, Cult of the Lamb, which is a peanut butter and chocolate of Animal Crossing, fucked up Animal Crossing, and Hades.
Both things are very good, but I gotta call you out. Do you love it because your girlfriend loves it?
Oh, I love it. Well, I mean, I love it because she was able to introduce me to it, because I probably never would have looked at it, and she didn't even, she wasn't even like, oh, she wasn't even like, you have to play this, or whatever. She was just like, I'm really interested in this game. It looks really cool. And then I'm like, oh, what's this? And I looked at it. I'm like, okay, why not? Because it's a Devolver Digital. It's like $20, right?
Right.
So I'm like, all right, sure, why not? Let's. I'm genuinely curious.
Her game became your game,
kind of in a little bit of a way, because like it basically, because like obviously everyone on planet Earth, including my girlfriend, loves Animal Crossing. I don't understand Animal Crossing. I think it's genius, but I also don't get it.
I like it for the first 3 hours I play it, and then I never touch it again, which is why I didn't buy the recent one. But like Animal Crossing DS, I played for about 3 hours and I was engrossed. Loved it for like 3 hours. Never touched it again.
So this game is like, okay, so you building, like in Animal Crossing, you're building up your town or whatever, right? And this one you're building a cult, from scratch.
Love that. I've always said I have always wanted to build a cult.
So, but it's all cutesy animals, right?
Oh yeah, that's all I would have in my cult too. I don't know what you think I'd be doing.
And as you're building your cult, you get to make decisions like, what is your cult decrees, and the decrees of your cult will affect, have status effects of the game itself and how your cult is or whatever.
Amazing.
So you have all these crazy things, like you can just like do general stuff like, hey, let's have a big bonfire, let's have a big feast. But then there's like, if a character gets old, they will die. But you can even do a thing where like you'll have a ritual to ascend them or a ritual to eat them.
Wow.
Because like, and it's all cutesy animals. And again, it can get all kinds of fucked up.
Are there orgies?
No.
What's the point of having a cult if there are no orgies?
I think to avoid the M. Well, it probably has an M rating. I wonder if it's maybe
if you
something
can sacrifice and eat something, it's got an M rating.
Yeah, it's got an M rating. No, it's definitely rated M. I don't know.
See, they could have had a whole other audience. Furries would have flocked to that game.
I think furries are going to flock to it anyways, but the fun thing is outside of your cult and your little area where you literally build up and design and create your cult village in the woods. You go and there's these 4 guardians who are withholding this god called the One Who Sleeps Below, and basically the game starts with you getting executed. But this deity who's chained below in basically hell basically says, I'll resurrect you. Just build a cult in my name. Give me power. And then you basically go and you have to kill the 4 like demi deities who are holding him chained down. And then you have to go and have to fight him too. So
why do you have to fight him? He's the dude fueling all of
basically once he's freed, he basically says, okay, now give your life for me. And you basically go, well, no, that's not going to happen. I'm going to stay in charge.
Yeah.
So
people are suckling at my teeth.
Exactly.
He made a classic mistake. He thought that because he helped the cult leader would give up power. Cult leaders never give up power.
Look exactly. I think there's even an option in the game to do that, but
you're not allowed to. I don't understand.
So yeah, but anyways, when you go to fight the other 4 deities, they're in different parts, like different environment zones, and this is where it gets Hades. Turns into a Hades game. You go in there and you have to fight and kill all these things, and the deities have all these mini bosses as well. And when you kill them, they basically revert back into like a smaller form, and you can have them join your cult.
Yes, that sounds incredible.
So there's a lot of fun, and again, it runs just like a roguelite where it's like you get RNG on weapons and spells to help you get through these forest mazes that are going to be like procedurally generated. And then you just there's all this fun stuff that goes into it, and then you kill like one of the D's and you rip their fucking heart out, and
amazing. So the end of it, you become a deity, or you just go back to leading your cult with no deity to sacrifice people to?
The end of it is basically like, what kind of leader are you going to be? Because you kill the One Who Waits Below, and then he reverts to like a younger, like a little whatever, tiny state, and then you decide if you want to kill him or like indoctrinate him into your own cult.
Yeah,
and then I
smothered that motherfucker.
Well, I killed him.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all spoilers for the game. We're spoiling the shit. I don't know. We didn't spoil the other games, but
I'm sorry. I got really interested into this one. All right. Let's. Yeah, you're
there
right.
There are decisions, but you make decisions at the end because you keep because it's Animal Crossing. You keep your cult going. You can keep playing it.
That's amazing. Yeah. No, that sounds great. I like that. That's a solid number 5.
Yeah, it's 2 things you just don't think about that would work, and they do.
It's a really solid line of demarcation because I feel like everything it beat out is shockingly good that it beat it out. So people have to take that choice.
I think for me, it's just like Cult of the Lamb's this game that I kept coming back to. Mm-hmm. Like weeks would go by and be like, I just kind of want to like see how far I can get my cult.
Well, cults are addictive. That's like Cult 101.
So I really wanted to see, and the boss fights are really well done, really like good, tough challenge.
Have you ever thought if there's a God that's probably how God is? Like we're just his Animal Crossing, and he's just like every few millennia, he's like, I wonder, are those fucking guys still alive? He just like back. He's like, wow, they've really taken this seriously. All right. Every now and then he does like a smiting. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, sorry about that. That was a weird tangent.
Well, the game kind of gives you Cult of the Lamb lets you live that fantasy.
Yeah, it does. I guess I know what I'm getting for Christmas. All right, number 4. Hit me with it.
Bayonetta 3.
Okay. I mean, after all the fucking controversy, it's still a solid game.
It's an excellent game. The hardware chokes it a little bit. That's why it probably isn't as high as it should be. It is a little performance choked. By the misery of the Switch hardware being so fucking old.
Other than a small minority of Switch elitists, I think everybody can admit that the Switch is a little long in the tooth.
Yeah.
Dude, there's like a really vocal on Twitter, especially. There's like a really vocal small amount of people who any sort of criticism on the Switch at all gets like people jumping down your throat about how it's the best and Nintendo doesn't have to change anything. And it's like, I'm not saying they should just get rid of the Switch. I'm not saying they should get rid of your favorite thing ever. I'm saying they should improve.
They should upgrade.
Just
Time to upgrade. I love most everything about Bayonetta 3. The story is bullshit, but it's always been bullshit. And the only time it wasn't bullshit was a little bit in 2. So I don't have the same qualms with the game for like, but that ending or but this character. I'm like, I would never play Bayonetta for fucking story or character.
story.
I understand people get real fucking into it, but I'm like, the lore for Bayonetta has always been like, ham-fisted bullshit, from the beginning.
It's been whatever they had to do to justify the gameplay they wanted.
Is the story good? No. Is it the worst in the series? Probably. Do I care? Not that much.
She wears hair for clothes.
It felt fantastic to play. Combat was phenomenal. And there was so much. There are so many weapon types in weapon variety in Bayonetta 3. There's so much, and that's not even on top of the fact that there's another playable character with an entirely unique, different play style. And technically, there's a second one where there's a couple levels where you play as elevator action. No, Rolling Thunder. Sorry, there's a couple Rolling Thunder inspired levels in the game.
I mean, that's excellent. Rolling Thunder 1 or 2.
2. Like it's very much inspired by that and elevator action. So just to spice things up every 4 levels or so, we have an elevator action 2D segment with another character. It's a phenomenal game. It just needed better hardware. That's really like, I mean, like, for a lot of people, like the end, like the story is just so bad, and for me, I don't care. But I do care.
Whatever fuck story.
Whatever fuck story in this game in particular. Is Bayo and Luca like a good thing? No, it's fucking terrible. But it is fucking terrible. But like, I don't whatever. I just want this game to run better. So I'm hoping a remaster can come out on better hardware later on. But for now, it is absolutely deserving of its action game of the year. All right, that's my number 4. Number 3, I think you've played my number 3, TMNT Shredder's Revenge.
Yes.
Phenomenal.
It is good. It is very good. But I do feel like nostalgia is what carries it so much for me. Mostly because I'm either just not good enough at action games that I care about the same thing. Like
the finesse.
Yeah, as long as the controls aren't total garbage, Dark Souls. That's not fair. I'm saying that just to piss people off, but as long as the controls are usable and like it's not dropping to 12 frames and stuff on me, like generally speaking, I'm not going to get super brought out of it. Like if it's a solid game, great.
You're not going to be like me in Horizon.
Right. Yeah, I'm not going to like flip the fuck out.
Fair enough.
But nostalgia for Shredder's Revenge rode high for me. That and it's couch co-op, which is the only way that that's
couch and online and mix and match.
Yeah, which is cool as hell. Although, how does it max out at 4 players? I actually don't know that.
Online maxes at 4. No, it is 6 online. 6 online.
6 is online. It's 4 at couch, right?
Maybe that's how it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I only ever did it with 2 people, but great time. Really liked that game.
It's phenomenal. It has like a meter for doing your super, so it's not that bullshit where like, using the good move takes away life.
Right.
So it doesn't have that problem. It's got crazy collaboration songs. It's longer than most beat 'em ups, but not long enough to get boring because the stages are actually short.
Right.
Because usually beat 'em ups, you get like, it's got 8 stages and they way wear out their welcome. This one's got 18 stages, but they're very short, and some are just boss stages.
I mean, as long as it's not like Double Dragon Neon where it crashes halfway through every single time you play it. I don't really have a problem with that. I don't think I beat it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I did all 18 stages. Or maybe it's just because the stages are short enough that I'm not remembering.
You fight Super Shredder at the end. So
right. Oh, okay. Yeah, I have not beat it then yet. But
yeah.
I was only playing co-op, and so if nobody's available to play co-op, I won't play the game.
You know what though? It's pretty fun, and the unlockable character is Casey Jones, and he is by far the best fucking character in the game. So
yeah, I saw videos of Casey. I mean, I'm a Donatello man. I'm Donnie all the way.
Right.
But I saw the videos of Casey, and I was just like, "That's so fucking cool."
And the animation's phenomenal. The music is on point. T. Lopez, who did the same Sonic Mania soundtrack, you emulated that Konami style excellently. Like,
right.
Everything about the game is fucking great.
It's one of the few games, and actually the arcade one too. It's one of the few games where I genuinely like. I would listen to that soundtrack outside of playing the game. Like, I know you love game soundtracks in general.
Yeah.
But like, there's very few games where I'm like, oh, I'll listen to that. Like, actually, Dark Souls 3, I think I've listened to that soundtrack outside of because I got it with the game for whatever reason, and so I just had it in my car. But I actually found myself like, oh, it's just so epic. The Foggy Day, ooh, Dark Souls music works real well. All right, that's a solid game though.
Absolutely, yeah. It's on Game Pass. It was on Game. I think it might be still, but yeah, excellent game. Not expensive either. Number 2, Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
I knew this was going to be in your top 10. I am sort of shocked it's this high up, but then
I don't know why it's gotten so. I mean, pardon the pun, forgotten.
Because Kirby's fucking Kirby. It doesn't. Kirby isn't gonna attract attention in the same league as the other, as like AAA titles.
Yeah, and it's honestly, and you're right, 100%. And I think it's kind of sad because it's the Mario Odyssey moment for Kirby.
I mean, that's
so cool. They have Kirby in a weird post-apocalyptic setting, not even so much like abandoned Earth setting.
Okay.
So and like, okay, you're playing the game and it's General Kirby, so it's just good shit. First time he's in 3D, but it's mostly controlled 3D. You don't have like full camera control much of the time. And you got fun new abilities. There's 2-player co-op. It's a good time. And then it fucking just goes places you didn't expect. So.
Like Cult of the Lamb places, like
yes.
You're killing demigods.
Yes, 100%. Because
excellent.
So it's a Kirby game, so it's a Nintendo game. So there's everything is just little text bubbles, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You get to the end of the game. This is spoilery, but you know what? It came out in March. If you haven't played Forgotten Land, what the fuck wrong with you? There's
the fuck's wrong with you? You don't play Kirby?
You get there and you start going up this, like you get to you're in this factory and King DDD is like, whatever, brainwashed for the Beast Tribe, but then like you knock him out of it and he gets some sense, and then he sees all the beasts coming to kill you, and he literally throws you into an elevator shaft and basically like pulls out his hammer, like, you go, I'll take care of this. You're going up the elevator and you hear voice acting, like the PA system comes over, and like everyone will be like, remembers the whole, and here we are, welcome to this lab. And they talk about this lab that was created from this thing exactly like 25 or 30, 25 years ago. They talk about this alien thing that crashed on the planet, and it was like an energy source and blah, blah, blah. And it's exactly lines up with when Kirby first came out. And then they start talking about how like all the humans built this thing to go into space to trace back where this alien race or this energy source came from. And then it just goes fucking places. Then you find out all the beasts are like basically like, we're trying to find out what happened to our original, like creators, or not creators, but like we're trying to find out what happened to all the humans here. And there's this whole fucking lore about like how the city and all the abandoned landscapes you've gone through came from this corporation, this literal Shinra-like corporation that from this alien being that crash landed on the planet and had like was generating infinite energy. Like they became like this mega conglomerate, and then they splintered into sub things, and then they all decided they needed to go back and to what I forget what reason to go back into space to try to find it, and there's like some vague possibly connection to like where Kirby's home planet is and stuff,
what the
and
fuck?
it just goes
What?
places, and the beasts are like we want, like, we were abandoned, like we're trying to, and it gets all Resident Evil-y, where like one of like the head beast turns into like this fucking like literal Birkin level 5 monster and chases you through a hallway, as it's like all this like animal parts are like morphing into different. It's so fucking nuts.
I'm sorry. Does King Dedede die?
No, he doesn't.
He saves the day.
He does save the day. Yeah.
Wow.
And then you try to like go back and save the soul of the Beast King who tried to like defeat you eventually, and then you actually, your companion in the game is like a piece of this alien being that's splintered off, and then like
so epic for a Kirby game.
it's so nuts. And then you like the true final boss is like this evil version of your companion throughout the game, and it's creating all these singularities, and you can like hear like time warp and the echoes of like the things you've heard in the game playing as you're fighting the final boss. It's like, this game goes fucking places, man. It's so fucking cool.
Like, it's just totally ham. That's amazing.
And,
okay.
And it's just a scrimblow bimblow, platformer on the surface, and then it has like this weird, crazy, like sci-fi plot going on behind it.
What do you think the game director was just like? Yeah, and then we're gonna do this, and everybody's like, yeah, it's Kirby, I get it, and he's like, okay, and then we're gonna get to the midpoint, and like, yeah, and then we're gonna turn everything on its head. What? Yeah, we're just gonna really go off the fucking deep end.
I think he got greenlit, and then when he was getting to the end of the game, he's like, I'm fucking putting this shit in.
Yeah.
You're gonna stop me.
He just like fucking started twisting things, and people were like, I'm gonna do it because you're the boss, but this seems strange. He's like, yeah, we're really gonna turn some shit up here. Amazing. Okay.
And it's not like even in your face, it's just like really this weird, creepy ambiance in the background. And you're just like, wait, there's voice acting? Wait, we're talking about like some weird like alien energy signature, like the departure of humans from the planet, like in the abandoned beasts who are trying to like find a way to get back into space to find them again. Like, what?
That's wild. That's a wild turn of, holy shit. All right. Well, I think I know what your first your number one game is, but go ahead.
Yeah, game of the year.
Triumphant.
Yeah, triumphant is Xenoblade 3.
Oh, really?
100%.
Wow. Wait, let's give the audience a minute to drink that in.
Well, let this sink in. Xenoblade 2 is not my game of the year. It was third in 2017.
Yeah.
If you've been listening that long. Xenoblade 3 is my game of the year, absolutely, though.
Yeah. I think we've probably talked to death about all the things that you really love about it, but if you had to pick one single thing, like you're like, this is what sealed it for you. Is it the world design? Is it the scope of the story? Is it how they use music? Sincerity. Okay.
The sincerity in the writing of the characters, of really believing their core theme, the sincerity in wanting to make the best thing they could make, because it's sincerity in development, it's sincerity in the game itself, how the game's presented, and it's sincerity in how it was made. And I think it really just shines through in all those aspects. The villains are weak. The villains suck. I'm not even gonna front.
Okay.
There is an interesting element to the villains in the sense that they're a complete opposite of the last game, where, spoiler or whatever, the villains in this game are afraid of dying. And they're afraid of time progressing and all that, time marching on. So they're fighting to live forever, and live in a frozen time where they don't have to.
I mean, that's kind of cool, though.
It's a cool idea. The execution is not there.
Okay.
Not necessarily, but the main cast, the main characters, and everything else that goes on in that game, and the realization and how everything in that game is fully realized in its world. It is not like, the side quests are phenomenal. They're the best side quests I've ever seen in a video game. It's never anything like, hey, I need five scrimbly doodads out in the field. Can you go get them for me? And you go do that. And thank you. Here's some experience. They don't have anything like that. Every side quest is sort of related to the world setup they built, which is a never-ending proxy war.
Yeah, that's impressive as hell.
Yeah, never-ending proxy war between two sides and two factions, and everything you do side quest wise has some connection to the overall grand arching storyline. A lot of it has to do with them once they go rogue or go off the whole pre-programmed system, like you go independent, they have to start growing their own food. So you'll have quest lines that are basically involved, like, can you go to this other colony on the other side of the world because they went rogue a long time ago and they've learned how to farm. Can you go get them to help us, teach us how to farm? And they'll go to each other and they'll interact and talk with each other. You can get one optional party, hero, what they're called heroes. You can get one optional hero quest line and take them to another colony in the world. And if they're kind of like opposite personalities, they'll actually interact, and then you'll have like weird quest lines that pop up between like two optional side characters, basically like meeting each other and like having a disagreement on basically how to fight and whatever, or like what to do, because like one character is all about, he used to be like one of the top assassins, and then he basically learned the value of human life by going through too much shit in the battlefield, and the other one is just this battle-hardened veteran who's basically suicidal because she basically her problem is that she can remember all her past lives, so she basically is almost gone insane. So she just runs suicide missions and it's her whole unit is a Dirty Dozen style unit of running Suicide Squad style missions.
Yeah, I forgot this is a very cheerful game.
Yeah. It's a very cheerful game indeed. So, but these are just side quests. These are non-important, non-critical, non-mainline side quests, but they all function and flow into the main narrative, which is impressive as hell. Wow. That like nothing feels like, even God of War is pretty good about this. And then there's a lot of great side quests, and there's ones where it's just like, can you go get me my orb? I left it in my house.
Yeah,
it's like that wasn't important.
It's her pig's favorite ball.
Oh, is that what it is? Because I gave up on that quest.
Oh, you never went and did it? Yeah,
I was kind of starting to, and then I'm like, I'm done with this. I don't know what the fuck she wants.
Yeah, yeah, and that's how you get her armor, Lunda's armor.
Right. So, anyways, yeah, impressive as hell. I think, but sincerity. It's just sincerity. This is a thing. Like when they made real world flutes to play in the game, because the characters are called Offseers and they play a melody for the fallen soldiers. So they're like, we want to make real flutes that are slightly different, so they have different sounds for each side of the war. So they went and made unique flutes with unique sounds. So
yeah, that is super cool. I also think you said that like all the music in the game is orchestral, right?
Yeah, there's some. I want to say there's a couple areas where they use like more techno music. I want to say, actually, I can't even think of where. That's in part 2. Actually, yeah, I think it is all orchestrated.
I mean, I'm always down with it. I love that shit. I think anybody that ever played like Metal Gear Solid and heard The Best Is Yet to Come,
right?
Which is like Aoife. God, what is the name of what's her last name? Aoife. I don't know, but the point is that haunting.
Yes.
It's not like, and it's in Gaelic. I think we all have kind of a hard on for that kind of music. And
and they have multiple songs like that. There's 2 songs sung in English throughout the game. One at the character's lowest point. I didn't know about this. This is kind of spoilery, but someone pointed out there's symbolism in the game. Like anytime this character is talking, there's usually a sun in the background, and then when there's like moments where the other character from the other side of the army is just focused on them, on her, it's always the moon. And then where they are in the story and the relationship depends on how full or waned the moon is.
Oh wow.
And they say that plays out all the way, because at the very end of the game, what do you fight under? An eclipse.
Oh shit.
And then when the eclipse ends is when the characters are forced to separate. So the sun and the moon meet finally, and then they separate, and they basically hope to meet again. So there's just this like, there's symbolism all like just written all throughout the game like that.
Yeah, I mean that's super beautiful. I love it when a story's in depth like that comes together.
Yeah, so
love that shit.
Total sincerity. I love every aspect of it. Battle system is good. It's not as maybe not as good as 2. The battles can get dragged out a little too long, I feel. Doing your what's called a chain attack, which is your super move, can make a 5-minute battle into a 10 to 15-minute battle. Not even because it's hard, just because like the game stops and lets you pick all these fucking things from a chart of how you want to just do all these moves in a sequence, and it's like you end up just not wanting to use it just to save time.
Wow.
I mean, it's cool the first couple times you do it, but then it's just like, okay, yeah,
It's
maybe
exhausting, and
maybe I don't want to do the super ultra move that has a shit ton of animation that I've seen 10 times already. So there's that aspect of it. I'm not going to say the game's, again, I wouldn't say the game's perfect. The hardware is showing its age. There's some seams in the game world where it's like, yeah, there's a couple corners cut here to make it run
right
and function on the Switch.
I wonder if the next iteration of the Switch is going to be more like the Steam Deck in size and power, so that it can run better stuff.
Part of me is like, they're going to try to not make it as big as the Steam Deck. I think they're always going to try to make it as small as the Switch, sleek as the Switch, which might be a detriment, to power in the future. Because like, really, I don't know. Like, it's hard to say, but like, anything's got to be better than what they got now because it's so fucking old.
Yeah.
So
it's aging out quick.
Like I said, I wouldn't say Xenoblade 3 is perfect. It's just I played the game for hours last night. I've been playing the game consistently weekly for 5 months straight, and I'm not tired of it.
Damn. That's a solid endorsement.
And that's why it's my game of the year, and I can't wait to see what they come up with next.
I think that's one of our rare entirely positive. No, we shit on some things, so never mind. Can't
have without darkness.
Indeed, that is true. As always, we've got some patrons to thank, but you should tweet us. You should tweet us about your favorite games. What's your number one game of the year? I mean, I'm sure it's probably in this 10. This 10 seemed pretty comprehensive. There was something in there for everybody, but maybe there was a game maybe you loved The Quarry or A Plague Tale.
Yeah, I mean,
was Plague Tale this year?
It was this year. I played it
this year. Yeah, right. Maybe that was like your fucking jam, but hit us up on Twitter.
I tried to be comprehensive again. The only thing I'm missing is some Microsoft first-party games.
Microsoft had a rough one. This year. They weren't. They were not very.
Yeah, impressive. I didn't put any first-party Microsoft games on my top 10 list this year.
Let's hope next year's.
I'm really twisting the knife in Xbox fans.
Let's hope next year's better. We'll see.
Not big. And again, for anyone who's like Super Nintendo or Sony focused, I'm not saying that because I'm shitting on a game. I'm saying that because there were none.
Yeah, they just didn't have anything. This is a void. So don't tell us about any of your favorite Microsoft games. But you can hit me up at Funkmachine, PhunkMachine on Twitter, or you can hit up Matt at his Twitter.
Yeah, at Doom Assist Me.
Or watch him play any of these games.
Watch him play these games at twitch.tv/assistmedoom.
And as always, we've got some producers to thank. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week was the Great Mad Scientist. Thank you, the Great Mad Scientist. And our producers for this episode are Scrunami, Kuroi35, Hyperviper89, Ziggy, and Online Persona. Thank you, dudes. And we will catch you next time.
Later, dudes.